So what option is there? I think that is what would be interesting for me to hear, and probably also which can help me to brief the members on what they can expect when they meet you.
Yeah, Chairman, thank you very much and for accepting the request to come here. It is unfortunate that maybe the members could not be here because of these other engagements. Yeah, but this group, I don't know whether you wanted us to mention our names just briefly.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm called Dickens Kamugisha. I work with the Africa Institute for Energy Governance. I've at least met you and your members sometime back on different issues, including the NEMA Act bill. So I'm happy that you still really give us time. So I think members, we can just mention our names and the organizations where we work from. Just very quickly, so that the honorables can go and attend other meetings.
I am Gasta Chienji. I work for Tree Talk Plus. We are members of the Uganda Forestry Working Group, but also members of this effort to save Bugoma.
My name is Vera David. I work with the National Association of Professional Environmentalists, and we're also part of this team that fights for the Bugoma remain standing.
My name is Christopher P. and I come from Hoi.
My name is Felix Watero. I work for Water and Environment Media Network.
My name is Joan Makisa. I work with NAPE. We're part of this campaign to save Bugoma. Good morning, Honorable. Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Nadimama. I work with Africa Institute for Energy Governance at NGOS.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Honorable, for giving us attention this morning. My name is Benedict Nkade, and I am from the Association of Data Operators. We are part of the campaign to save the Bugoma Forest.
My name is Joshua Mutare. I am from the Water and Environment Media Network. I am part of the Save Bugoma.
Okay.
Am I there? Tony Ofungi is my name. I'm representing Association for the Conservation of Bugoma Forest. I work with, I'm under also the Association of Uganda Operators. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And I think as you have heard, we are NGOs and we are tourism companies. So NGOs, we work with private tourism companies. And our main objective is to ensure that Bugoma Central Forest Reserve and its catchment areas are conserved. And as you said that you needed just to get a brief since you don't have time, we've been following all the things that have been happening. And Chairman, you also know that we also have an issue we are discussing with you, Bugoma, but there is also much on force. So us here, we are here to request and to discuss with your committee to see how best we can work together, even on the cases, because the application in the Court of Appeal was dismissed, but the main case is still there. And we believe that Parliament can actually look at the different things that are happening that are actually threatening the forest and see which actions can be taken. The first one is that we believe that the case itself is being mismanaged because of corruption, because while NFA is actually in court and contending that actually the land that was given out, the titles that were issued, that land is part of Bugoma Forest. The government officials themselves, including the Commissioner for Surveys and Mines, went to court and testified in favor of Hoima Sugar and Munyoro Chitara against the NFA case. And we're saying this is a government official, he's a Commissioner for Surveys and Mines. Instead of advising NFA, you are actually on the other side. The NFA specialist for boundaries, also the things that he was saying in court, there is every really circumstantial evidence to show there is a need for us to understand what is happening within the Ministry of Water and Environment, the NFA, and the Commissioner for Surveys and Mines Department.
So, probably you can start there, just help me to understand where we are with that case. I was under the impression that the case has been disposed of and we've lost.
No, it is not yet disposed of. The appeal is there, and we are not here to discuss the merits of the case. We are only here.
So what is it that was dismissed by where?
The Court of Appeal.
Yeah,
The Court of Appeal, because when the NFA filed the case, an appeal against the judgment of the High Court, they went ahead to apply for an injunction to stop the order of the High Court allowing the Hoima Sugar to proceed with the business. Yeah, so that the application is the one that was dismissed.
So pending here,
Yeah, of the main case. Yeah, so that's what is in the court right now. So those government officials actually are the ones that caused the NFA to lose the case, because NFA has maps to show that actually the land that was given to Bunyoro Chitara and Hoima Sugar is part of the Goma forest, but because the Commissioner for Surveys and Mines actually went to court, and up to now we've tried to ask them to give us access to the maps, the boundary maps, and they are not willing to give those maps. We've even asked them to at least take us for a tour as members of the public. The Commissioner for Surveys and Mines has also refused to do it. So we believe that there must be something that is wrong, and we believe that Parliament as an oversight institution can actually go into it. We also think that the Ministry of Lands and the specific registration service, register of titles that issues these titles without consulting institutions that are responsible for the conservation of those resources, I think there is a very big problem. As we speak, because this is a summary, since you said we will also have another opportunity, while there is a pending appeal in the Court of Appeal by NFA, as we speak right now, NEMA has approved the terms of reference for environmental and social impact assessment, and is now in the process of actually processing the environmental and social impact assessment study by Hoima Sugar. And we've been wondering how a government body can actually proceed to process an EIA and a SIA which is in respect of a project and land that is already before court, and the case is still there. We met NEMA, and they said, you see, they were not very clear. We've met the Minister of Water and Environment. They said they talked to NEMA, but NEMA is still adamant, and we think that it is Parliament that can actually maybe call to order some of those institutions through the minister and through those other related institutions. So we believe that that SIA should not continue until the appeal is completed. And that's what the Minister of Water and Environment promised. But we said, I think it is difficult to believe some of the government officials there. So we believe that Parliament can handle this issue very well. There is also, in terms of information, we know in 2018, there was an ad hoc committee of Parliament that was constituted, and there was also a cabinet committee that was constituted to investigate the issues of Zoka Forest and of Goma Forest. And we've been trying to get at least the reports of those committees. We don't know whether the committees proceeded and they undertook and they completed the reports. It would be. It was 2018.
In this Parliament?
Yes, in this Parliament. But we don't know whether actually it was the committee proceeded to do the work, or they stopped at announcing that they had formed a committee.
Would have been a selected committee? I'm not aware.
But it was at least what was clear and in the media that an ad hoc committee or a select committee had been formed to investigate the issues of Goma and Zoka Forest. A cabinet committee was also constituted to investigate the same and provide information. Up to now this is 2020, we have not gotten information. So we had thought that the committee maybe can look through can ask some of those who were maybe on the committee and see whether something happened, but also if it didn't happen, maybe Parliament would find it necessary to look at some of the issues which are not necessarily the merits before court, but the issues that concern the governance of the forestry sector, and specifically for Goma. We think the committee can look at that. The other area that we had also wanted to discuss with you is specifically about assuming Hoima Sugar and Bunyoro Chitara win in court. And they say these titles are valid and they are okay, they can't be cancelled. But as Ugandans, we believe that, that forest should be conserved. What is it that we can do? When we met with the Ministry for Water and Environment, we said government has been actually using compulsory acquisition under Article 26, acquiring land, compensating people and groups. They should also use those powers to ensure that they acquire that land, they compensate those people who are claiming for the sake of keeping that forest intact, because that forest forms all the corridors that connect to other wildlife areas, and destroying any part of it is actually going to be a very bad precedent in Uganda. Related to this is also an issue that we shared with NEMA, that actually it is considering that the Albert region at the moment is under immense pressure from oil activities. That you have oil activities in Machon Forest National Park, you have activities in Udongo Forest.
Okay, so probably before we get into that, that's Machon Forest.
Yes.
Maybe you can advise us if you have a lawyer.
Yes, personally I'm a lawyer.
Okay, would this be sub-judicial for Parliament intervening in a matter which is within court already?
Because right now we are not actually questioning the ownership, because the issue that is before court right now is actually the ownership of the land and whether the titles are valid. We don't think Parliament should investigate that.
Okay.
What Parliament
so
should.
What's in the Parliament is a question of ownership.
What is in court is
So
the
what is
question
in court?
is question of ownership.
So what do you see that Parliament can do?
And of course, that's why we are saying that Parliament can look at the options of, for example, advising government that they can actually discuss with the people who are claiming the land. Because I believe Parliament has those powers, rather government has those powers. So they would look at that option and see whether they can discuss with the owners, the people who have the titles, and see whether they can compensate them. That is an area that has nothing to do with the ownership. In other words, challenging the ownership of those people. But it is about just conservation. And I believe that one, no one would come to Parliament and say, this is subjudicial and it should not be discussed. So that's the reason why we are very, very careful that we don't discuss the merits of the case, because we believe the courts are independent and should do their role. On the other side, we should not also sit down and say, if after 2-3 years the court determines that the case, the Hoima Sugar and the Bunyoro Chitara have won the case, that by that time, because now they have some orders to proceed with their activities, that by that time the forest will have what? Been cut and completed. Because that will be useful, not useful for us in terms of conservation. So we are looking at how Parliament can proactively devise a strategy of how they can engage government, work with government to conserve. And that's why we are emphasizing that issue of the oil activities, that even government should look at it that you have this pressure on ecosystems of oil activities in Machon Forest, in Udongo Forest, in Wambabia, in Kaboya Game Reserves. All those things are putting a lot of pressure. You have to get water from Maikarbat, you have to treat that water, you have to cross River Nile, and all these are going to produce carbon, are going to produce everything. So it would be necessary that the government can actually say, let's spend so much billions to compensate these people for the sake of keeping this forest intact. So that is an area that we think would be a good argument for compensation, or rather for using compulsory powers by government to acquire that land if all other options fail. Because we are also mindful that, if people go and get land in protected areas and you actually compensate them, you are creating a precedent, attracting others to also go and get titles. But we can look at this one as an exception, say that this area we must keep it intact and ensure that it is safe. So that is an area that we would want to underscore. The last thing that we are looking at is working with the international partners by government to recognize that actually right now, at least the information that we've been getting, even when the budgets are presented to Parliament, is that the government actually earns around $1.6 billion from tourism. And at least I was also reading information showing that the tourism sector in 2018-2019, it actually employed over 600,000 Ugandans in direct jobs. And we believe that, these core ecosystems are the ones that are attracting the tourists. It's not the buildings that are attracting tourists. So why would we want to cause trouble to those ecosystems? You also, at this Parliament, has discussed about the issue of building a dam at Machon Falls. I believe that, many tourists, 80% of tourists who come to Uganda and go to that area, they go to Machon Falls. So you have Dongo is under pressure. You have Machon Falls is under pressure. You have now Goma is under pressure. So we would need to work with the international partners, even these donors, to mobilize all the necessary support to ensure that these resources are safe. So that's the reason why we think that discussing with Parliament and the specific Natural Resources Committee of Parliament can really use whatever means available to ensure that this forest is saved, but also the entire ecosystem in the area is safe. We've also been discussing about if Parliament can ask government to evaluate the economic values of some of those resources. Because some of the discussions that have been going on in government is that we want development. But are we sure that actually those resources, if they are kept intact, we cannot get actually much more value than if you turned a forest into a sugarcane? Who is supposed to generate that information? Of course, as civil society and other partners, we can try. But we believe government also has a responsibility to ensure that if they really need information that can contribute to making good planning, to know that where should we put this, where should we put the other economic activity, where should we put conservation, they can generate that information. And that is an area that I believe these institutions like NEMA, NFA, UWA should work together to ensure they evaluate their resources, so that no one comes up to say, this is just a forest, without knowing what it means. Because we've done like scientific studies on oil, that it is going to be creating carbon emissions once they start exploitation that will be costing this country around $66 million per year until the end of the oil exhaustion. So if all those were to be factored in, that if you destroy these forests, actually the damage is going to be much more than the money you are going to get from oil. Maybe someone who is doing the planning, it would be more helpful to make a right and sound decision, and it would take us forward. And it would also ensure that, as a country, we comply with our commitments like of the Paris climate change, Paris Agreement on climate change, where we committed that no emissions should be reduced. So all those areas that would be really saving Bugoma would be very, very relevant to ensuring that we achieve, but we promote sustainable development. We ensure that people who are employed there, the businesses that earn, all these hotels which earn from these tourists, are actually supported, and the communities that also survive on those resources for agriculture and for climate change, the balancing, are really safe. So basically those are some of the areas that we said we could discuss with the committee and ensure that we continue engaging, and if the committee actually also finds time, we would actually work together to also go and visit that area so that we get the feel of what is happening. Thank you very much. Except if my colleagues have some additions.
Honorable, I just wanted to add two things. What he has described comes from one big error, and that error is government officials telling lies to court, testifying in court. And whether there is a court case going on, I think Parliament, within its oversight responsibility, has the right and mandate to cross-check on these government employees who testified before court and didn't tell court the truth. There is evidence in the documents that we have accessed that somebody from the Ministry of Lands swore before court that that wasn't a forest reserve, and that there was no forest boundary, and that there was no land title, and went ahead and issued a land title to BKK, Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. That should be investigated. Whether there is an ongoing case in court or not, Parliament should question those government employees and should come out and tell the truth. The other thing is the issue of the environmental and social impact assessment. Sincerely speaking, for NEMA to proceed with the environmental and social impact assessment process without involving the National Forest Authority, a concerned party in this case, a little bit raises eyebrows or questions. Currently, we don't see the reason why the ASEA, why NEMA went ahead to approve the terms of reference for the ASEA, when actually we all know this is contested in court. There must be a little bit, or it raises suspicion, if I don't want to say there must be a little bit of connivance. It raises suspicion. Why is one government department working to undo the mandate of another government department?
On that one, if you can help us to understand, I know it's, okay, the issue of contention is whether it's a forest reserve, in which case land for NFA or the Bunyoro Kingdom. But just leaving that apart, what is the current status against which the appeal is being made? Is the land now being seen as belonging to, occupied by Bunyoro Kingdom, or it's still land of NFA? What is the status of ownership?
If we go by court ruling, the status of ownership is the land, contested land, is owned by BKK, Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, that gave a lease to Hoima Sugar.
So at the moment, the occupant is Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom?
Yes. At the moment, it's Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. And it has given a leasehold title to Hoima Sugar. Yes.
But I think the legal question that is there regarding the ASEA is that if you as NEMA you are processing an environmental and social impact assessment, it means that you think there is no one contesting that piece of project, because that goes to the merit of the case that is before court. Because once you as a member, for example, you give a certificate of approval for ASEA, it means you have said this one, there's no one who is claiming over this project, so it means it is your project.
But if I may play the devil's advocate here, if the land belongs to Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, if that's the current status,
yes,
and the government is just applying to acquire it, to take it back, and then presumably the interim application that had been made was to stop an activity on that land.
yes.
By Hoima Sugar Factory, which is a sugarcane growing,
Yeah.
which is an agent of the Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom.
Yes.
And we lost that case. So is there anything which is barring at the moment in law, which is barring the sugarcane company from going ahead with its activities?
I think
they need to they need an EIA.
Okay, so if government doesn't issue that, then they cannot proceed.
They cannot
They
proceed.
cannot proceed.
And the right now is that the appeal that is in court is actually questioning the ownership of the land. It is like now, whichever party is presumed to be still okay from the state of affairs. And meaning that, if you are another party, you come to discuss, to say, I'm giving a certificate to proceed with this project. It's as if you are saying the court is no longer is irrelevant. But on the part of Hoima Sugar and Bunyoro Chitara, if they didn't require an ASIA, they would actually proceed to use the land without any problem. But a third party should not come in.
But wouldn't it be illegal?
Of
Again, I'm very, don't misunderstand me.
Yeah.
I have not got the whole facts of the case. Wouldn't it be illegal for NEMA to refuse issuing that certificate, the ASIA, if everything is okay and there is nothing barring? Of course, it's a government agency, but again, it's bound by the laws of the country.
At least there is no law that actually compares the NEMA that if there is an issue, there is a matter in court regarding that project, that actually it can be under obligation to do an ASIA. It is like Parliament, if there is a case in court where even Parliament is not a party, that Parliament can sit here and discuss the merit of that case, that maybe you claim you don't know about that case. It is your obligation to actually get to know what the case is about.
What I'm trying to understand is whether NEMA will not just be stubborn, and whether it will not just be frustrating development on the area illegally, if they have fulfilled the condition and then they refuse to issue the ASIA.
Honorable, the other thing that, as we continue to discuss, that even if this land belonged to BKK, Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, currently, that land is forested. And according to the National Forest and Tree Planting Act, if you own land and it is forested, you are supposed to manage it under forest. You are not supposed to convert it into another land use. Yes, and yes, another usage. And currently for us, our biggest concern is the conversion of a natural forest into a sugar establishment. That is our biggest concern. The other concern could be the ownership of the forest reserve, fine. But we are saying whether the land belongs to NFA or it belongs to Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, this is forested land. It should be maintained as forested land.
The issues there. Now, can't you, probably as a lawyer, and there may be other lawyers here, I thought that if somebody lies and lies under oath, that's a very serious criminal act, and they can be prosecuted for that. And so, even if government does not, government can take action, but even if government hasn't taken action, isn't there anything that can be done, probably by the lawyers, as interested parties in this, to prosecute the government officials who lied under oath?
Chairman, that is very true. Of course, as a group here, we look at because there are a number of activities that we are trying to engage on, and different options. So we are looking at the easiest way right now,
Easiest and cheapest.
And the way you can get the right information that can enable prosecution afterwards would be the Committee of Parliament to actually take the responsibility to investigate these activities, including how the titles are issued over those contested areas. So that if that information is compiled, it can even help us as private organizations, as private lawyers, to use that information. Otherwise, it is very difficult right now for like an NGO like us to go to government and you try to get that information. But if Parliament invited the minister, invited some of those government officials to tell those stories of how they do their things, I think it is very easy for you to get that information. So what is very clear is that right now we don't have the right information. We are also still speculating why these things are happening. And we believe Parliament is the one that can try to find out. Once we get this information, then we can use it to go against those people.
Well, and I can see you have very good. I'm very, very sorry that my colleagues are not here.
Yes.
But I can see that you have.
And I think, Chairman, I will give you these copies.
You have some, what the lawyers call prima facie,
I believe so.
that you have some very valid reasons why competition should get involved in this. And I'm sorry that my colleagues are not here, but this has been a matter of interest for us for some time now.
Yes.
Actually, some time back, my colleagues visited Pugmore Forest. Where else did you go? Okay, visited Pugmore Forest, and then they also visited Maria. And what they found there was very disturbing. Actually, for most of the areas that we are talking about, including Maria, which we see there when we are passing by, and we are happy that it's there. Actually, most of it has already been leased out. Either leased out or even people given freehold titles. How that is happening is to everyone's bewilderment. It was very surprising that is happening. So we've already been there, and also the minister, very interestingly, the Minister of Water and Environment came in with a long list of land titles that have been issued on forest reserves, and was wondering how we can work together to help evict some of those people. But of course, as they say, as the word goes around, is that we're dealing with mafias, and it's very difficult to tell how these things are happening. What you've just said about the issue of a government employee or government employees going to court and testifying, I think is a very serious matter. I would very much appreciate any additional evidence that you have on that. But of course,
whether he testified or whether it was wrong.
You were saying that what he said in court were lies.
Yeah, we believe because we have tried to ask for the information that he was actually highlighting in court, and they have refused to give us that information.
If it was the truth, why don't you put it public?
Okay.
And that's why we are saying that, if maybe the Parliament was to look at the issues of how those institutions give those titles, do the mappings, do the surveys, it would bring out some.
So I will consult with our council,
Yes.
parliamentary council, but of course this is provisionally,
Yeah.
as we arrange the meeting with you for more information.
Right.
We'll consult with our, actually it's now called General Counsel to Parliament, to see what legal advice he gives us on this,
Okay.
and how best we can proceed. And also the issue we talked about of the environmental impact assessment, which has been issued by NEMA. We'll explore a possibility.
As we stated, NEMA has approved terms of reference,
Or terms of reference.
and they are now processing the environmental social impact assessment. That one is still under process.
Okay.
Actually, draft is already available
Yeah,
for
the draft is available.
input.
Approved terms of reference.
Yes, and then they are also processing the CI itself.
Now, two other things that are of interest to me to know. One is that when you're looking sorry, it's BKK, what's
The
the
Bunyoro
Bunyoro
Kitara
Kitara
Kingdom.
Kingdom.
Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom has already approached us to see whether, okay, they approached us in the context that yes, they own the land, they have been owning it, but they don't want to destroy the forest.
Forest.
Yes.
How can we negotiate and how can we help?
Yes.
This? And actually, they're saying, I'm assuming nobody here don't speak.
No.
The court has found in our favor. But yes, this is a forest. How do we proceed? Now, you see, the court has ruled in our favor. It's ours, but we don't want to destroy the forest. So what's
The buy-off, the trade-off, the
Now, so that's one, on one hand. On the other hand, the minister has told us when we last interacted with the minister here, the minister also told us that they are trying to see whether they can reach a political settlement, whether government can reach a political settlement with the Bunyoro Kingdom. Probably next time we meet him, we'll be interested in finding out how they've gone on that. But all what you're talking about is very, very interesting. And I'm sure there is something very interesting for members who actually traveled all the way to Goma to come in and listen to you and have a discussion on what you're talking about. It's just unfortunate that we have all these things going on now. We've not been able to hold this meeting. But I thank you very much. Unless there is anything else. Yes, madam.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe just to take it up from what you talked about on a political settlement between government and the Bunyoro Kingdom. We think that could be an option that can be taken up. But the one, if the political settlement takes some time, because we understand it may not be a decision or something that will achieve an outcome within maybe 2-3 days or a week or so. It may have to take some engagements between government and the kingdom. So in the interim, as NEMA is processing the EIA, what happens? That's why we are saying that maybe Parliament should use its oversight role to prevail over NEMA, so that this whole process of the EIA is either put on hold as the court processes take chance, but also as we explore this other window of political settlement between government and Bunyoro Kingdom on how we can protect the forest. Otherwise, the whole case will be taken over by events if NEMA goes ahead to issue the EIA, to approve the EIA, and the forest is destroyed. Then all our efforts will be put to waste.
Okay, those are the matters which we need to consult with the General Council.
Okay.
The issue of the environmental impact assessment and the issues of witnesses. So, as soon as we'll consult with them, and based on what they tell us, how they advise on this matter, because we're also careful on how to move on a matter which is already in court. We have to be a little bit cautious. So we need advice and guidance of the General Council to Parliament. And depending on what they tell us, what the advice they give us, it's possible that we'll call NEMA and the Minister of Water and Environment and see if we can prevail on them not to proceed with the environmental impact assessment.
Maybe just also state that NEMA is not in court over this matter. It is just the Kingdom and NFA. So NEMA is a bit outside.
Yeah, that's why I was seeking that clarification.
Yeah.
As a layperson who is not a lawyer.
Yeah.
That clarification as to whether NEMA has any grounds of refusing to to approve the terms of reference if the current owners have not been prevented from using the land. And presumably the interim application was about stopping any development activity. stopping the sugarcane growing,
Yes, yes,
pending the disposal of the main application,
yes,
which we lost.
yes.
So I don't know then whether in the circumstance, NEMA can lawfully refuse to issue to approve the terms of reference when there is nothing legal to stop them, other than being a government agency.
But we are saying that right now there is an appeal. Yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have
that's
just
what,
suspended the injunction, but the main case is still ongoing.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was
That's why
referring to.
they want to get an advice from the council or parliament so that they get their position informed. Which I think, of course, maybe, I don't know whether the council will take the initiative to get the real facts.
Now
So
we,
it's able to-
okay, I think what is important is that if there is any additional information you can share with
I
us,
think we can share this.
you have to give it to us. It's the information that we give him
Yeah.
that then they rely on. Of course, if we lie to the general council, then it backfires on us.
There is no reason of lying here.
Honorable, you need to know
Okay, I
that
needed,
sorry.
my colleague here has been leading on this matter, actually. Probably you can introduce us.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm Andrew Kizakaluya. I'm a Member of Parliament. I represent the people of Chigulu South in Uganda District, and I'm the Vice Chair of this committee. I have been following these matters closely because the first trip we made to Bugoma, my chair was out of the country, and I led the delegation of the whole committee, and we have been following these issues very closely.
And you also went to Mabila.
Oh yes, we went to Mavira, we went to Namamfe. We have been following so many forests, but the case in point, which is Bugoma Forest, I think as in summary, I would say that the courts have done us a disservice because now we are on the, I would say, on the weaker side because there is already a ruling. Yes, there's an appeal, but there's already a ruling which we hope that maybe can be overturned after the appeal. I happened to be in NFA yesterday and was trying to follow up these very issues and try and pick a few ideas from the ED and the Director of Forestry. I also met the lawyers, that is, what's his name? Yeah. I met him and I wanted him to bring me to speak to what is going on. He said for us as lawyers we are still fighting on, but as of now we are on the weaker side because court has already made its ruling. I have tried to meet, I've made a few appointments with the ED of NEMA, Okurut, but unfortunately we've not yet met because I really wanted to get his view of this pending EIA to understand exactly what is going on and how far he has gone with approving or issuing that EIA to Hoima Sugar. Or disapproving also. But the impression I get, I'm sorry to say this, but the impression I get is we talk on phone. He is under immense pressure. From forces I can't point at. But
Can
he
you
is
talk about
under-
them as mafia?
Well, we can say mafias. He is under immense pressure. He has tried to delay this until now, but I think we just need to work much faster than we are working to kind of to override the events that are taking place. I hope I can get to meet him sometime soon and we'll get to discuss more. But as Parliament, it is unfortunate that for almost a year now, we have not yet come up with a conclusive report on our findings. Just before the lockdown, we had invited the Commissioner of Maps and Surveys from Ministry of Lands so that we completely establish the boundaries of the forest. Unfortunately, that when we had the lockdown, he didn't turn up and we still are yet to meet him so that they give us conclusively. Because we have met NFA, we have met Hoima, Bunyoro Kingdom. They have given us their view. So we at a stage whereby we just need to make to get information from these fellows of Ministry of Lands, so that we come up with a report that maybe, of course, with the guidance of the General Council,
Council,
with the guidance of the General Council, because with matters that are in court, you have to be cautious on how you relate those matters with Parliament. So with the guidance of General Council, I think the best we can do as of now is that report. When we put the report to the floor of Parliament, then it can be debated by the whole Parliament, then we can come up with resolutions, which is actually a long process, but also seems as our only hope that we have now. However, I want to appreciate you guys for the pressure that you have put up. It is really very good. I'm more on social media and on some of these groups of Self Bogoma Forest and all that. Although I don't really communicate, but I get to read Amois and Kamoni. So I see what goes on. I think what you're doing is really what this country needs. As civil society, you need to come up strongly, vehemently, to protect these forests. Not only Bogoma Forest, but all the forests. I was driving to Parliament yesterday but 1, and I realized they were making that road between behind Hotel Africana that connects to that shopping mall, from Wampewa Avenue all the way to. Then I kept wondering, why all these buildings are coming up when that one was just a green belt? The only green belt that we have in the country. It has been given to selfish people. With all the many arcades that we have, that place could have been preserved as the only green spot that we have in Kampala. So when I looked at it, the road is a very good idea. But how about if we're passing through a forest? A road is okay. But you see all these shopping malls, small shops, then the restaurants. We can always go for restaurants anywhere else. So we need to sober up as a country. We need to do something as a country. Yes, politics has taken over, selfishness has taken over, corruption has taken over, but we can't stop fighting. So my message to you is, thanks for the good work. We apologize for the small turn-up. The Speaker organized a meeting for all members of Parliament. And on top of that, we have campaigns that are knocking at our door. Our concentration now with Parliament work is a little bit low. And I will also apologize, I was not here in the beginning for this meeting because I just had a press conference that I had to attend. So we are saying, please keep in touch with us. We also apologize for the slow reply when you wrote the letter. I don't know who is Mr. Fuji. I've been working with him closely about this letter. But we really need those voices to keep coming. We need those voices to keep coming. We as members of Parliament, we are, so far, right now we are only 2, but we have over 460 members of Parliament. And they are aware of these things. We just need to keep informing them, keep telling them about it. But back to the case, like I said, as of now, we're on the losing side. And the Bunyoro Kingdom is saying, any further discussions with you people is only in court, because now the land has been declared mine. You understand? So whatever you're doing, whether it is government, whether it is Parliament, whether it is civil society, do it knowing that the land is mine. So the option remains. If the land is yours as Bunyoro Kingdom, what do? We want to save the forest. So do we push government to buy off the land from Bunyoro Kingdom? Do we push government to lease that land from Bunyoro Kingdom and preserve it as a forest? Or do we accept Oima Sugar to take over the forest, destroy the forest and plant its sugar cane? I think that is where we are now.
Okay.
If court can help us and reverse their decision, that is another issue. But as of now, I think we should also look at the angle of government buying off that land or losing it off or compensating. I think it is now Bunyoro Kingdom that is supposed to compensate Oima Sugar because Oima Sugar rented from Bunyoro Kingdom. So that is where we are.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think that neatly summarizes it. Yeah. The other thing probably that they have raised, I think I guess if I understood you correctly, their concern is not very much about the court. Their concern is more about the betrayal by our own government officials
Yeah, that one also came up.
who went to court and
You see, that is
wrongly
where we have
testified.
reached. That's why I say selfishness. There are other people who have selfish interests in this whole thing, and they end up destroying the country for selfish reasons. That's why I gave all the examples of Centenary Park, examples of Namamve. Namamve, people are just swimming in titles. Titles are coming up every day and every other day. You know? Maybe it is only Mavira that is not as damaged as the other forests. But when we look at, we have not yet visited that one. Is it Budongo? Which is also having certain issues.
Which one?
I think it is Budongo Forest. I was talking to Tom, and he was giving me a list of all the forests that
are threatened.
He said, at this rate, we are not going to have a forest in the next 20 years. Because the mafias have taken over this country. They are taking everything with impunity. Someone comes up with a title, 5 years old, on a piece of land that was gazetted in 1932. They gazette the forest in 1932. Someone comes up with a title, 5 years old. And court approves. These are guys, we are fighting guys that are invisible but very lethal. Invisible but very lethal. They penetrate government, they penetrate courts, they penetrate parliament, they penetrate security. So you just cannot fight them. So you as civil society, what do we do? Some of us are passionate about some of these things. That's why I'm so passionate about the Bugoma issue. I have grown up planting trees, I have my own trees in my constituency, and when I see all this happening, I'm like, where are we going to leave this country? Where is the next generation going to survive? So we really have our hands tied, but we still have to fight.
And the honorables, I think that is where we would like to get the way forward. Because now from this meeting, because we believe that any solution that is going to come out of our determination to ensure that this forest is not destroyed is going to come from Parliament. That's why we are saying, even if those Minyoro and Webashuga own the land, it is a forest, it should be conserved.
Have you got another
and
copy?
The number of things I think Parliament can really ensure that that forest is safe. And we want to see, I think that's the right thing. We want to see how best we can work together to look at those areas that we can use.
Yeah.
In the meantime.
Okay, no, I think as we said, if there is any other additional information that you have, please send it in. We are going to consult with the General Counsel to Parliament, and then probably we can try and see if we can time between the very busy schedule of members of Parliament, whether we can schedule in a meeting, and then you can come in and then we can have a more detailed discussion on that. But before then, there may even be other things that we may be able to take on, depending on the advice of General Counsel to Parliament. Okay.
So is there, when you think the council will provide his advice, and then maybe when we can make that?
I'm hoping that we...
On 5th August, which is just a very short time from now, as CSOs, we are supposed to have a second meeting with the Prime Minister and his team of Euro Kingdom. We are hopeful that we will also get more information. We also met with the NFA and the Minister of Water, and they also were actually complaining that one of the biggest challenges why they are losing cases, you have Koi Mashuga and Euro Kingdom is 5 senior lawyers, including, I think you know, this senior lawyer, James Nangwa, Kasagachi, all those. But when if we had just one lawyer, a junior staff, you can imagine one lawyer, a junior one, against 5 lawyers. So even as they lose cases, it is because of they have poor funding, and we looked at the whole thing. So we agreed that we can discuss and ensure that at the Court of Appeal, we can actually support their legal team so that we at least
so that they get more lawyers. Okay.
That is also an area that we are looking at. We also discussed and agreed with the NFA and Ministry of Water that as CSOs and tour companies, we can work with them and do a legal research to just establish all the processes of some of these processes, these pieces of land, how they are issuing titles, the people who are actually getting these titles, and how best they can cancel these titles. Because we've been hearing government announcing we are going to cancel titles. In that process, we know very well the law provides clear processes for cancelling a title once it is issued.
Okay.
Not even the president has powers to unilaterally cancel a title, but every time you hear we are cancelling the titles. So we wanted to do that joint research, legal research, using Goma as a precedent, but also covering all these other titles that are really issued in places where they are not supposed to be issued. So it would be good if Parliament is going to take certain steps, if they can have like timelines that.
No, I'm expecting tomorrow is a public holiday, so I'm expecting that we can have meeting with the council for clarification on some of the legal issues here, beginning next week. And of course, if you have any information, kindly keep in touch. So I have to, we are running very, very late for the meeting with the speaker.
This is a simple one.
Yeah.
You are politicians, you belong to political parties. The discussion we are having here arises from manifestos of the political institutions that you subscribe to. Is there an opportunity for you, as you enter into this politicking time, to influence your manifestos and enrich them with the environment and natural resource conservation?
Yeah,
that would be a very, very big thing, a very big achievement.
That is absolutely fine, but you also need to do a lot of work with the individual members of parliament so that they all build it within their agenda, within their thinking as they go out to do the campaigns.
For the benefit, thank you very much, colleagues. Frederick Amora is my name. Parliament representative of the Forest South. And one of those who has visited the forest in question. I appreciate all that you shared with my leadership here. Chair, for the benefit of the visitors, we are all members of the NRM. The manifesto preparation for final release is at advanced stages. But to note, the issues of environment are issues that we should all have interest in. And I would implore you, Chair, maybe through Chief Whip, who is also our leader here, to have this input forwarded. She might have a better access, and the Speaker, a better access to that manifesto final preparation, that issues of environment are general issues that should be concern of everyone. Let the manifesto highlight on that. I agree with you. Use your good relationship through Speaker, through Chief Whip. Let this penetrate into the final script of the manifesto. Thank you very much.
Chair, I think for the report of our members there, we will request, if possible, just in 1 minute, we take a photo together. Official results, unless our members will say that we can communicate to Parliament.